In the case of Jennifer versus AU Hospital, on whether a patient's rights have been violated, reason being a financial institution made an accusation of the possibility of identity theft. I believe that was mistaken identity. It was released maliciously and carelessly without the patient's permission to his social media, which I do find a presentable likeness in the characteristics of the plaintiff. There is a non-maleficence in part to the hospital's duties, directly and indirectly made, which hospital rules and regulations are foundational, but they only express in part to which most problems occur. In this day and time, social media opens the door to speak openly without consequence. That's stated by Wilson in 2015. Social media engagements. He wrote for the hospital, the transparency of social media can be a bigger undertaking than for the businesses in which privacy protection is not a concern. To address these issues, hospitals need to develop a method to balance social media engagements and patient privacy. Wilson also said, upon learning how to adhere to hospital rules, they have to handle issues using social medias, which was intrigued by the idea of posting a generic statement to acknowledge complaints and compliments while providing information rather than engaging in a full conversation about the patient or experiences. Direct the conversation to a different medium. To invasion of privacy to patients and disclosure of patient information is a serious accusation and should not be taken lightly. When a person becomes a patient, there is a disclosure they are obligated to sign. If a person is unable to sign for themselves, then an adult accompanying them should do so. And so, without knowing, a patient can give full disclosure. This is such a violation. These such violations do happen. A massive breach at a hospital did occur between the years of 2011 and 2012, where it saw hundreds of patients' medical records were breached, which 7 staff members were fired for because of it. The breach included a domestic violence victim who was in hiding and 414 victims who was in 414 victim files that were inappropriately accessed by a high-profile anti-abortion campaigner. As you can see, this source includes several patients and placed them in real harm's way. This group also launched a $5.6 million privacy class action lawsuit against the hospital, which in turn fought to have the case thrown out in an Ontario Court of Justice, arguing the courts had no jurisdiction over health-related privacy breaches. The crux of the hospital's argument was that health privacy violations were the sole domain of the Privacy Commissioner and that the Personal Health Information Protection Act is the jurisdiction of the court. Well, as you can see, my vote, it goes for AU Hospital. Because of likeness and the mistaken identity, is not sufficient enough evidence to award a case against the hospital. It happens all the time, especially in social media. Also, the possibility that they will harm financially is not sufficient evidence either. Because if they were just made known accusations and no real financial harm was done, then the hospital should be awarded or accredited for its privacy. Thank you. Okay. Is this how you turn this off?